Tuning in to the online broadcast network, AfterBuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing after-shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
The old school ways, they would like find out the rooms and they would like see them. Oh, we are going, gang. This is it. Okay. Sorry about that. I thought I usually can.
Tuning in to the online broadcast network, AfterBuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing after-shows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Welcome back, gang, to this week's edition of Red Sox Wrap 360 alongside Bobby DeMuro. I'm Mike Conley. Bobby, where can people tweet you if they want to tweet us during the show?
Well, since you don't have a Twitter, guys, I am at Bobby DeMuro. Mike, just so you know, since have you ever been on Twitter?
I haven't, but I'm graduating.
You have a hashtag.
I'm gonna like, once Jerry Remy gets on Twitter, he has one, but I don't think he uses it. And
Okay.
I take all my cues off the rim dog.
Can I actually, since I played the White Sox this week, let me frame this differently. Hawk Harrelson
Oof.
has a Twitter.
He's tough on the ears.
Uses the Twitter.
I'd rather read Hawk Harrelson than listen to him. There's no doubt about that.
Then
You can put it on the board, put it on your Twitter, buddy. Just put it on your Twitter. I'm done.
Are you in any way upset with Hawk Harrelson because the White Sox did take 3 of 4 from the Red Sox in Fenway?
The White Sox are a hot team. They started to hit the ball a little bit. They've been underachieving this year and starting to fulfill their preseason promise.
Do you know what's weird about this with the White Sox? Do you remember last week on this show, you and I had a discussion?
Oh, boy.
And I told you that the Red Sox should not be buyers at the deadline, and they weren't. Should not go get Cole Hamels, they weren't gonna, but anybody like that shouldn't go get a big name because they aren't in the playoff hunt. In that losing streak that the Red Sox had last week, the tough time in Los Angeles and Houston, helped them decide we're not buyers, we're going to sit back at the deadline. The White Sox had the opposite thing happen. They got hot at the worst time because guess what? The White Sox are not a playoff team. They're not going to keep that hot streak up. They're not going to win rip off another 10 out of 15. They're not going to win 18, 19 games in August. It's not going to happen. That's not a playoff team. Yet they went and tried to be buyers at the deadline. They kept Jeff Samardzija, which is kind of dumb, let's be honest.
Who were they in on at the deadline?
Who did they get? They picked up, I can't remember now, they picked up somebody at the deadline and they kept Jeff Samardzija. They were supposed to get rid of him.
They kept Samardzija, I know that. I didn't think they made any additions.
And that's bad. That is not a playoff team. So they're going the other way than the Red Sox, but it won't last. The White Sox are completely inconsequential. If two teams come out of the Central, it's going to be obviously the Twins and, of course, the Royals.
Yeah.
So
Thank God the Sox got the last win of that series. It staved off it would have been the first 4-game sweep the White Sox had at Fenway since like 1927.
Nothing like salvaging 1 of 4.
Oof. But then we come back, take 2 out of 3 from the Rays. The Rays are pretty much not good.
Yeah, so I mean, if you take the week as a whole, and we should, winning 3 out of 7 is not good. But it could have been a lot worse when you look at those first 3 games. So after those first 3, you end up taking 3 out of 4 to finish the week. Okay, you'll live with that. You know what I'm saying? You're playing a little bit differently than I think most Red Sox fans are used to in the last couple of years. 2014 obviously is more similar to this, but 2013 and before that was a very different ball club. This is the new normal reality.
You know, I'm fine with, and you know, my stance on this is, you know, well documented. Yes. But I mean, if every 10 years, if we can win 3 World Series championships and then have 7 last place finishes, I'm fine with that.
Okay, but there's hold on.
Is that asking for too much?
Yes.
Oh. How about 2?
Yeah.
Every 10.
I think if
I'm
you
just
are
going based on recent history. That's all.
Okay, and I'll go on the 86 years before that when you went 0 for 86.
Wow.
You can't,
that hurts.
You can't. This is what kills me about the Sox, and I'm glad I'm on this show as kind of an outsider because you need one desperately. You of 2 weeks ago telling me the Sox were going to win 87 games. You need a reality check on here, bro.
I mean, I also said they were going to be very quiet at the deadline, so 1 for 2 ain't bad.
And Josh Rutledge is a blockbuster trade.
Huge. Josh Rutledge.
No, look, I mean, okay.
For one of my favorites, though, Shea Victorino goes to the Angels.
We knew it was going to happen.
He was a great player in 013 for us.
You knew they had to do it. And you knew the Angels were looking for outfielders. I'm surprised, and we talked about it the last couple of weeks, I'm surprised that more of those veteran guys didn't get moved. But Shane Victorino was one you had to move. I'm glad they did it. They got a couple others, Napoli, Diaza, Justin Masterson, who are probably going to get moved in August. There you go.
Yeah, Napoli will definitely clear waivers. So are Masterson.
He will, and I hope that Napoli, and he did it the other day, I hope he can build up his value a little bit so that when he gets moved that you can maybe get something for him, a player to be named later, some kind of minor leaguer. I mean, you're not going to get anything amazing for him, especially clearing waivers. But if he builds up his value a little bit, maybe like look what happened to the Cardinals last week. Cardinals have an injury. Matt Holliday goes down. Napoli's not a fit there.
Right.
But a team like that, somebody needs like a first baseman or a DH. Somebody gets injured, and all of a sudden, oh crap. It's panic time.
Yeah.
We got to go get somebody. We'll give you something better than we would have for Mike Napoli.
Yeah. I thought the Pirates were going to come calling. They need a right-handed bat to kind of platoon with Alvarez over there at
and
first.
they got that right-handed bat. Michael Morse.
Oh, yeah. That's
They got
right.
Michael Morse from the Dodgers.
From the Dodgers.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, they're off now. But a lot of things can happen. Anybody can, anything, people get injured, all sorts of stuff happens. And then there's only so many guys in that August waiver deadline that have the right mix of bad contract, bad play, but decent history to where they're still valuable. You know,
right.
My Rockies just picked up a guy, Jose Reyes, is similar, huge contract, decent history, not the same player he was. That's an August waiver deadline guy. And Napoli is, I think Justin Masterson probably is, and Alejandro Diaza, only because I think a lot of teams might need a 4th, 5th outfielder, and he's in free agent year, and you say, well, crap, let's get something for him.
Yeah, we
don't want him back. He's not coming back. Let's get something.
He's been a nice addition too.
Yeah.
He's played well, and as far as like people that actually hit and runners in scoring position, he's like one of the only guys doing besides obviously the budding superstars Xander Bogaerts and Mookie Betts. So it was a very costly week as we lost Mr. Betts on that play. Did you see that play?
Yeah, I did. He's going to be he's going to be all right though.
He's going to be all right.
Yeah.
He probably's not going to join them in New York this week, but they're targeting Detroit, the second series this week.
Although was he officially diagnosed with a concussion?
I don't know that. He was put on the concussion DL, so I imagine he would have to be diagnosed with a concussion put on that. So.
Because the reason I mention it is, remember Justin Morneau with the Twins several years ago, had a concussion, didn't seem like a big deal, missed some time, got so bad for so many years, he almost retired.
Yeah.
And that's rare, and Morneau's different, he was older when he got injured, but it's head injuries, they're a little bit different. Morneau had another concussion this year with the Rockies. He's missed 3 months now.
Thank God the Rockies are so terrible. He had a new home.
It's those kind of guys with the head injuries. You never know. Something weird could happen. You hope he comes back in Detroit. Personally, with a guy like that, I'd say, you know what? Take let's take 3 weeks. What's the rush?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
take
who
as much
cares?
time as you need.
Yeah.
Certainly not rushing them back. I mean, especially now that preseason 2016 has begun. We want to get a good long look at the Jackie Bradleys of the world and, see if they can actually play on this level. Because we all know, seeing him for the past few years, the guy plays a Gold Glove center field. He just can't hit his way out of a wet paper bag.
It's a 4A player, maybe.
4A, just what we like. And we love when those prospects pan out to be 4As. Gotta love that. But, so Betts, he goes on the other. What a weird play that was. I mean, if he just braces himself and smashes into a padded wall.
Yeah. But those things aren't quite as padded as you think. I mean, the pad's there, but it's not. Yeah. When you're going at that speed, when you have that force carrying in, it's going to hurt like hell anyways.
Yeah, I mean, how do you get to the realization, I'm going to go ass over tea kettle over and fall on my head, and that'll be better than crashing into the semi-padded wall? I
actually don't like, and it happens at Angel Stadium, Dodger Stadium, in Fenway. There's probably a couple other places I can't think of. I don't like that real low wall. I don't like the 3-foot wall or whatever it is. I don't know if you've ever been down. I mean, you've been down at Fenway, of course, but I've been down to Angel Stadium a couple weeks ago, sat right in that left field corner, and there's that real low wall. You sit right on the field. It's a real cool seat. Yeah. But for the players, when you get over there, weird stuff happens with fans. I mean, if you go in at the wrong angle, you hit your head like what we saw. Yeah. You flip over, something bizarre happens. I don't like the low wall.
I don't like the real low ones, but you obviously have to have in play the...
Yeah.
Bring it back in catch.
But you can do the bring it back in catch on an 8-foot wall.
6-foot wall.
6 or 8-foot wall. That's what everybody else does in baseball. And I respect it and I understand why you do it. But think about down the lines. Think about all the times you've seen infielders or outfielders, your nemesis Derek Jeter in that famous play, diving into the stands. It's a wonder his head wasn't cut off the way that he dove in there. But those things with that real low wall, it's a little iffy to me. You got a lot of weird angles and metal parts with like seats and bars and benches and stairs. I mean, he fell into the bullpen, Betts did. But usually when you're in the stands, all this different stuff, it's like, let's raise the wall a little bit.
Yeah, I hear you. Especially on that play, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
But, hopefully it's not that much. The kid will shake the cobwebs, come back, and get to be doing what he was doing because he's the most exciting player on our team right now. So we need him back out there. This is going to be some lonely 2 months. So it'd be nice to at least see the young kids, blossom, But today they pissed away another one. Thanks to Junichi Tozawa. That's his second blown one in 3 games. Luckily, the aforementioned Mike Napoli bailed him out Friday night with that classic Fenway homer. Did you see that one? That skyscraper that dropped in the first row. I was like, is that going to get out? Is that going to get out? It died. And he was celebrating, staying with the Sox on deadline day.
That's the 9-iron, right? You want to hit it about 100 yards. You just want to plop it down, backspin so it doesn't roll.
That's it.
Yeah, that's the 9-iron.
That was the one. So he saved Tanichi that night, and so Tozawa got the vulture win that night. Nobody saved him today. They K'd in the order in the 9th. And they lost 4-3. Could have had a winning week.
Yeah, but I mean, that stuff happens. Your closers blow saves. And I think when you look at Tozawa and what he's done all year and really his entire career, a couple of those guys in the Red Sox bullpen, Kenji Jojima or whatever, the other guy.
Koji Uehara.
Koji Uehara, too. That's right. Yeah. Those two guys.
Are you thinking back to the days of Hideki Okajima, like back in like the late 90s?
Hideki Okajima? Yeah. I don't even know who that is.
Ooh.
No, but those two guys in the bullpen, I think, and Ogando's been decent. Those two guys in the bullpen and guys like Ogando, you're going to have bad days. Everybody's going to have one. The problem is when you're a closer and you have a bad day, you go from winning by 2 to losing. Winning by 1 to losing.
Well, Koji's been good. It's just Tozawa that blew it up here. And those are the only 2 guys that are really in the circle of trust,
Yeah.
And, everybody else is trying to lobby you back in. And our lefty was Tommy Lane. He all of a sudden gets sent down to Pawtucket this past week after kind of blowing it up the past few weeks. And now Robbie Ross is kind of that lefty being trusted in the bullpen. But, if anybody came knocking for any of those guys besides Uehara and Tozawa, I would have taken, bag of bats and some fungos. But
would you have given away Uehara or Tozawa for the right price?
For the right price, I guess so. But I just love Koji, man.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that in this day and age, you can see how a team can turn it around in one off season. So I would hate to lose such a kill a back end of the bullpen guy. But I mean, maybe if we got Kimbrel, there was that talk of that blockbuster that never really transpired on deadline day.
Yeah, with the Cubs and the Cubs and the Padres.
And I wonder how much of that is fabricated by the media just because of the familiarity those organizations have, with Jed Hoyer being there, and who's the kid in San Diego? Is that Jed Hoyer? And then Theo.
San Diego's AJ Preller.
AJ Preller. Okay.
But I mean, you look at needs
That's
too.
right.
Look at needs in San Diego. Shortstop. What have the Cubs been trying to dump? A shortstop, Starlin Castro, forever.
Right.
Cubs need pitching. What do the Padres have a lot of? Pitching. Red Sox kind of need a little bit of everything, maybe. And who do the Red Sox know? Theo Epstein.
Yeah.
So that's, that makes sense. I think a lot of that's media not overblowing, and you can't blame the media for it. It's too easy to criticize the media. Forget about it.
Yeah.
It's not that. It's that it's the media looking logically at who needs what, when, and where. Look at the Blue Jays. If we'd have talked about the Blue Jays a week ago, we'd have said pitching, David Price, and they did that.
Yeah.
But did you see Troy Tulowitzki? The last thing they needed was a power hitter.
Right.
So these weird things happen behind the scenes. You maybe get a guy that you've wanted for a long time, and everybody else says logically, wait a second, in this day and age, in this week, the Red Sox didn't need XYZ. The Cubs didn't need XYZ. Well, no, but maybe they wanted him for 2 years.
Yeah.
The Blue Jays wanted Tulo for a decade. And this was the time to get somebody. And with the Sox and the Cubs, I think the Red Sox are a good example. And I don't know, you probably have a better sense than I do, if people at home are mad that they didn't make more moves at the deadline. But I think the Sox are a good example of just because July 31 comes around, you do not trade just to trade.
True.
You don't say, hey, let's go screw around and get this guy, get that guy, because then you wind up with an albatross of a contract. Then you wind up giving away an exciting young guy who becomes a 5-time All-Star, and because you were trading just to trade, you screwed it up. You got to be real careful about sort of the anxiety and the intensity at the deadline. And I think for Sherrington, I think it's like, okay, all take it at face value. You probably didn't get the moves you wanted to get. You traded Shane Victorino, okay. We'll talk about that return, but you don't trade just to trade.
Yeah.
You got another month to do it here. You got the winter meetings to do it in November. Those are better times to do it, especially if you're a team like the Sox.
It's true, and we did talk about that in previous shows, that they weren't going to be buyers, they weren't going to be sellers, and how, historically looking back, it's usually the buyers that get hosed in these. So
yeah, always.
we're kind of seeing the 015 is done with. It's time, they're definitely going to go at some people, control young pitchers that are in control, and this offseason. They're going to make a run at Sonny Gray and maybe Tyson Ross, but
so will everybody
Theo's
else.
going to be in on that too.
Yeah, so will everybody else.
Yeah, exactly.
But
we have more in our farm system to go. And I was surprised Toronto had enough to get the best bat on the market and one of the best arms.
Listen, they gave up Daniel Norris to get Price. Norris is a great young arm.
He had a great start today.
And they gave up 3 guys to the Rockies to get Tulo. One of them is that Jeff Hoffman from East Carolina University. Dude had Tommy John literally right before the draft in 2014, ended up being taken 9th overall. I think he would have been the number 1 overall pick if he were healthy. He turned out fine. He recovered. He was throwing well in AA. That dude's a beast. I was talking to a Blue Jays writer literally today about this, and I was like, tell me the truth. Did the Rockies get hosed in this? And he was like, dude, you don't understand. He's like, I'm worried that Tulo's going to stay healthy. Legit concern.
Right.
And I'm really pissed we gave up Jeff Hoffman. The other 2 guys they gave up too, the other 2 arms, the minor league guys, the Blue Jays gave up 96 to 98.
Yeah.
Could turn into good relievers.
Still
but
pretty raw.
Jeff Hoffman is the real deal. Going to take him another couple of years, and it's Colorado, so maybe he doesn't do it. But the Jays had some nice prospects.
Pick up some lefties.
And there's a lot. I think that's the point. Is there's a lot of those guys out there, and the Sox got them in the minors too. And the Sox even have them in the majors. Eduardo Rodriguez, you're not going to trade him now, but the Sox have these guys who. Great young arms, really raw, really projectable, flashes of just brilliance, light up a radar gun, and then you say, wait a second, if everything goes right and you develop right, we have a Clayton Kershaw, we have a Zach Greinke. You have those type of arms. Most of them don't pan out that way,
right?
But they've all got the tools. Everybody throws 95 now.
That's what we're going to see here in these next few months when Brian Johnson comes back up to kind of make up for his one bad spot start, and then I'm sure we'll see Mr. Henry Owens too. So we'll have quite a crop of young lefties up here showing their wares.
And I think the Sox are a little bit different Because here's the thing. I always ask this question about August 1st. Remove the fan Mike Conley and the Sox fan Mike Conley, and be the baseball fan in general who wants to see good baseball games.
Okay.
What incentive do you have to keep watching the Red Sox for the next 2 months?
We do a podcast on a weekly basis here, but I mean,
if you're a fan at home, if you're not total diehard, but you're pretty diehard, even you're probably saying, why do I care anymore?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, but we have young guys that are exciting, and I do want to see their progression, and if they are going to be the core players that we're going to head into the next generation of Red Sox fans with.
Yeah.
I mean, Betts and Bogarts already I'm sold on, and they're there. Swihart, I'm still not sure of. I like his bat. He seems to be good throwing out runners and stuff like that, and he's a tremendous athlete back there. But as far as calling a game, he's still got a ways to go. And maybe I just got spoiled with watching a guy like Christian Vasquez come up last year because he had all those things licked. He knew how to call a game. He was just in control from day one. And as we talk about those up the middle positions, you have a tendency to lean towards the defense and the intangibles over bat in those situations.
Yep.
But I mean, at the very least, we'll have a trade chip, but we'll send him in the offseason for Sonny Gray, no problem.
Or if you say Swihart's going to be good enough, maybe you get more out of Vasquez when he gets healthy. Or you know what? A lot of guys moved with Tommy John surgery. A lot of injured players moved on this deadline. Maybe you trade Vasquez now. Yeah. You'd have to get somebody good for him. But injuries are no longer a factor, it seems.
It's true. I mean, I think that, I think Swihart's trade value is probably higher just right now, but I think people, you may say that it has kind of panned out for pitches, but I mean, when's the last catcher that had Tommy John and kind of came back?
It's happened. I'm trying to think about it. It's been nobody significant, but what if you piece together? I'm just totally spitballing, but I'm looking at young, controllable, with a decent track record, albeit short, Swihart and Brock Holt. What if you say, Brock Holt, let's sell high? You're not going to be an all-star next year. You might never be an all-star again.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I could lose Brock. I mean, you can get like a Devin Marrero or somebody to be that utility guy. I mean, he's enough of an athlete where you can play some outfield too. And
you can go get Johnny Herrera again. I mean, there's a lot of Johnny Herreras out there.
Right. And Brock's picked it up as of late, but once he got named to that All-Star team, which I was dreading about, those guys that are doing good, you just don't want anybody to mention it. And sure ahead, Ned Yost goes and mentions it by putting him on the All-Star team. And he went in like a 5 for 27 funk after that, So he's coming out of it as of late. But, speaking of coming out of it, who's coming out of it is one Mr. David Ortiz, a guy you wanted to deal at the deadline. I was happy to see Poppy and Pedroia still in Red Sox uniforms.
I floated it.
Yeah, I mean, you did.
I floated it. I'm just saying.
It's not going to happen.
You got it. Here's the way I think the Red Sox. Here's the thing about the Red Sox. There's two kinds of teams that are rebuilding. They are the 2011 Houston Astros, which were, let's lose 111 games 3 years in a row. Let's pay everybody the minimum, and then maybe we'll get good, and lo and behold, they're good. And then there's the Red Sox of this year, which operate under a little bit of a different paradigm because you can and will spend a lot more money.
Right.
So as long as the Sox spend it wisely in the offseason, they can get a lot better, a lot faster than the Astros, the Royals, the Pirates, all those teams that rebuild again and again and again, and finally one of them stuck. The Sox can get a lot better a lot quicker. But here's the kicker. You have to, at some point, move on to the next generation. At some point, you got to say Ortiz, Pedroia, Victorino's already gone, Napoli. We got to move on.
Yeah.
I know you don't want to dump these guys unceremoniously, but listen, man, baseball's a tough game. I'm not saying release Ortiz tomorrow. That's not what I'm calling for.
Right.
But you got to have an exit strategy. And if it's that next year option and then he's done for sure, he better be done for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I could see selling off these guys if our farm system was barren, but it's not. I mean, we have a stockpile farm system. There are young guys coming up where we can keep a guy like Papi and keep a guy like Pedroia to usher those guys in. That plus the fact Pedroia is on the DL right now, he doesn't have any trade value. He's got a big contract, and people are going to have to see him come back and sustain a full season of production before they can really.
You don't think he has enough of a reputation that this winter you don't think they could move him in November for something?
I don't know. He's got like 4 or 5 more years at probably around $60 million going. That's
a lot for a second baseman.
That's a lot for a second baseman. So, and plus, I mean, I just love the guy, and he's all about what you want out of a baseball player, and I think he is going to turn it around. I mean, he was having a good year this year until he got hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, he was on a pace there where it looked like he was going to get a career high in homers, and hit close to 300. So, and the guy plays a solid defense. I mean, Gold Glove caliber defense. So, maybe not this year so much, but join the club on that. But so I know the Sox did stay relatively quiet, but there were some moves, that little tinker in that I thought were okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we mentioned Shane Victorino. See you, Shane. We love your time in Boston. Thank you so much. So we led in today with 3 Little Birds. You see that? I mean, the Shane Victorino song.
That was wonderful.
Everybody remembers that from 2013. That was kind of a song a wounded city rallied around that really needed some healing, and Shane was pivotal in that World Series win. He actually, he got the game-winning RBI in all 3 of those series. Never been done before. Of course, we've only had 3 series now for about 20 years, but what are you going to do? But, so he goes, and we get a guy, Josh Rutledge, who could play a little shortstop, play a little third base, but not well.
Nope.
Not defensively well, but he's got a little pop.
Look, I have a different view.
Oh, boy.
Here's the thing. You had to dump Shane, so at least you got something back.
Exactly.
Here's the deal with Rutledge. He was supposed to be, for the Rockies, the second baseman of the future. He's a University of Alabama guy, drafted pretty high. Supposed to be the second baseman of the future who could hit and play decent defense. The Rockies tried him at second base. He did all right for a little while. Then his defense completely collapsed, and they realized he was terrible. But he was still hitting .290 or whatever in his rookie season. So they said, okay, DJ LeMahieu was going to take over the second base job, which he did, and he's a Gold Glover and an All-Star.
Right.
So they said, okay, you're going to be our utility guy. Well, as the utility guy, when he was found out having to play shortstop and Tulo would get injured or Tulo would rest, Rutledge was terrible.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, as a utility guy, when he wasn't getting everyday at bats, dude couldn't hit. And he had this weird catch-22 where if you played him every day, he was going to hit okay. But if you played him every day, he was going to screw up in the field every day.
Right.
So you have this, he's not quite an everyday player. He can't adapt to the utility role. Rocky shipped him out in November to the Angels for nothing, for a relief pitcher who's been just as bad as Rutledge. And then Rutledge was fighting for the second base job in Anaheim this spring with a Rule 5 draft pick who ended up staying on the roster, and the dude's going to be on the roster all year, Taylor Featherston, and Johnny Giavotella, no-hit second baseman, used to be the Royals, and Grant Green, no-hit second baseman, who's kind of a weird utility, left field, third base, whatever.
Right.
Green, Giavotella, and Featherston all beat him out. He's been in AAA Salt Lake. He wasn't hitting in AAA Salt Lake. He needed a change of scenery. Look, if you look at this the way you should, they got something back for Shane Victorino. You're not going to get much for a guy like that. The Angels kind of stockpiled left fielders at the deadline. They picked up 3 middle-of-the-road left fielders, almost like they're going to decide which one they want to use.
Right.
And Victorino was one of them. But you got something back for him. That's fine. Is he going to be around? Probably next year. I don't think they're going to dump him in November. But is he going to be around after 2016? I think you're in for disappointment.
Yeah.
It's not a Johnny Herrera situation. It's not going to be like that. He's certainly not a Brock Holt. You're going to get real mad at this guy. I know he made a great defensive play the other day at third base, but you're going to get real mad at this guy. He's not. He's that weird level where he's not a AAA guy, and he's a 4A. He's not a AAA. He's not a major leaguer. He's somewhere in between. The way I like to say it, got a lot of those guys. The way I like to say it is this. Active 25-man rosters in the big leagues are 750 total guys. Josh Rutledge is one of many, of 250, who are the other quarter. They're in the 1,000. Right. If you're in the top 1,000 in the world of baseball, you're incredible. Yeah. but you want to be the top 750.
Yeah.
And he's not.
You sure do. Especially when that paycheck comes.
Yeah, that's a nice paycheck. And he'll probably get it for the rest of the year, right? I don't see why he wouldn't be on the active roster the rest of the way.
He's only got to make it till September 1st.
Yeah,
and then
it's exactly. And if Pedroia comes back at that point, you're on a 40-man at that, so who cares?
And I mean, that is what we're talking about. It's just you look at your roster and you look at the guys that aren't going to be with the team next year, and that's Napoli, Victorino, and Diaza. And you just... Although I could bring Diaza back as a fourth outfielder if no one was willing to do it. But he's hitting well enough for the Red Sox that I'm sure somebody could use him as a starter on their team.
Yeah.
And he plays good defense. He can play all three outfield spots. He's a guy I like. But, his contract's up at the end of the year, and, we won't bring him back. But so anything you can get for those guys is a good thing.
Yeah.
I actually, if they don't get any value for Napoli, I wouldn't be disappointed if he finishes the year. I just like the guy personally. After the World Series, dude runs around Boston with his shirt off. He's getting hammered. I love that. It's very cool. He's not hitting, but he doesn't hit for 4 months every year. It's just so happened the 4 months were the first 4 months this year. But he's turning around. The guy's hitting like 290 since the break.
Do you realize how you just described this guy?
Yeah.
You like him because he runs around with his shirt off, and he doesn't hit 4 months out of every year, but it's cool.
But the 5th month is like, and the 6th month is torrid. He has one torrid month and one month. His month could have been May, actually. He did okay in May. But, I was happy for him. He got that home run the other night. It was kind of a nice thing. But we did... improve the bullpen, I thought, a little bit with some really minor moves, picking up Ryan Cook for either a play to be named or cash considerations. Yeah. I've seen it reported as both. And then we got Gene Machie from San Francisco Giants. And, that's a guy that he's been horrible this year. He's got an ERA in like the 5s. But for the past 2 years, both these guys are pretty much stinking up the joint this year. But the previous 2, they were integral parts of that bullpen.
Yeah.
Ryan Cook was a all-star in 2012, And then Gene Machie. He had a scoreless inning streak last year, like 25
consecutive
innings.
batters. Yeah, he had that consecutive batter streak.
Well, that's crazy.
Yeah, which was I think he set the major league record, right? Didn't he beat the record?
Was it batters? I thought it was scoreless innings.
No, 25
it was batters.
It was definitely batters. It was look it up. It was definitely batters. He set the batter score or the consecutive batters without getting on base streak. Consecutive batters retired.
Gotcha.
I'm 99% sure. But look, here's the thing.
Damn you, baseball reference.
I look at these two a lot differently. Cook, I think Cook is a buy low guy that you take a chance on. I don't know if you saw any interviews he did, but he talked about changing his mechanics, really set him back. The A's didn't have a spot for him. The A's bullpen is not good, but it's deep. It's not terrible.
Right.
So he kind of was just a man out of a spot at this point. And he did okay in AAA with them, Yeah. And I think that's a good buy low guy. See what you got. You gave up nothing. You might have given up a little cash.
Yeah.
You might give up a high A player or something that never pans out. So what's the difference?
Right.
Machie is a little weirder, and here's why. So he had a couple really good years for the Giants. Several good years and several decent years as like a middle reliever swingman. This year, he was bad, but the wheels didn't fall off. He didn't lose his command. He didn't forget how to throw a baseball. He didn't have a huge injury problem. It didn't collapse. And the Giants released him immediately, outright. Didn't put him on, didn't try to do anything with him, or at least not publicly. Didn't send him down, didn't try to put him through waivers to send him to AAA. They canned him. That tells me something's wrong. What do they know that no one else in baseball does, and what are the Red Sox about to find out?
Well, I've heard that this year there was kind of no depth to his slider, and his
but that's
splitter was
those
garbage.
are things that would be fixable. You'd say, let's take a look at it, let's take a flyer, that's why we did it.
Right.
But if that were true, if it were just, get a little depth on the slider, you don't think the Giants could take care of that?
Yeah.
You don't think they'd want a guy who let's put a little depth on this guy's slider, we're good.
Yeah.
I'm worried that there's something else going on. Not that the Giants did something illegal or sent out an injured player or something like that.
Right.
But that the Giants are like, for whatever reason, this guy's done. We need to wash our hands of it right now.
Yeah.
That's what I'm worried about.
Well, when you're not giving up anything, the returns, is
Yeah.
not going to mean you're not going
Exactly.
to get like, a Aroldis Chapman.
Yeah.
So
again, talk about buy low. I just think that
Yeah.
buy low, it could be a bargain. Maybe he's going to be a great reliever, and Giants are going to look stupid.
Yeah.
But I think that buy low is a weird buy low, only because you got to look at San Francisco's perspective and say, you guys develop pitchers so well. He's had so much success for you. Why did you can him immediately?
Right.
What was the thing that set it off? It wasn't a flat slider. You can fix that.
Right.
What was actually going on?
right.
But I guess we'll find out in the next couple of weeks.
Hey,
Because he's
you know-
on the big league roster.
It was worth a shot with those two guys because
Yeah.
really our bullpen is, Koji, Tazawa, and a bunch of arsonists who, might be good for a 2-week period and then they're garbage again. So, we'll see. Another transaction this week that I don't know if you didn't blow over was Rick Porcello to the 15-day DL with soreness in his right tricep, also known as wounded pride. He had a nice start this week. 2 innings pitched. He got lit up for 10 hits and 5 earned runs. So he's garbage, and he's got a nice paycheck, considerably bigger than Josh Rutledge's paycheck. And maybe he's a 4A pitcher. That'd be sad.
That's a real bad season.
It's a pickle.
God, what do you do?
Oh.
What are you supposed to do with a guy like that? Because he's not old. He's not. I mean, this was supposed to be like maybe not a frontline guy, but this was supposed to be a key cog,
Yeah.
and he's terrible.
Yep. Didn't even throw a pitch, and we gave him 4 years, $88 million.
God.
I mean, there's too much of that emphasis put on as got to lock up these young guys before they turn 30, get them at a manageable number, all that stuff. Yeah, but they have to be good. That's the caveat. That's the caveat.
Well, and in the Red Sox defense, I think you look at other Tigers products who have gone elsewhere. I just think of Scherzer. Max Scherzer developed with the Tigers, did so well with them, went to the Nationals, didn't miss a beat. And so when you're the Red Sox with Porcello, you probably think, oh, the same thing's going to happen. Why could we not have success? Not as good as Scherzer, but why could we not have a decent starter coming from that same system, stays in the American League so he's familiar with the hitters? And what the hell happened?
Yeah, I guess he went from the weak hitting AL Central to the big bat AL East.
The question is it just a bad year, wash it clean, or is this Rick Porcello?
Well, he's going to get every opportunity to
Yeah.
succeed because he's got the big number, and there's going to be some awful big egg on the face if they just, ship him off for nothing. But I was excited this week that the bats came around. Let me throw this one at you, okay?
Okay.
In the last 7 games before today's game, the Red Sox were hitting .332 with 25 extra base hits, and they scored 51 runs in that 7-game stretch, their best 7-game stretch since September 2013.
And yet they were 3-4 in those 7 games?
They were.
Did they lose last Sunday? Yeah.
Yeah, they were 4-3. No, they were 3-4 in those
3-4.
games.
Yeah.
Well, that's because the pitching was horrible, But
I mean, the pitching's got to be real bad. You get 25 base hits in the span
Extra
base hits in the span of a week,
yeah,
and you don't win 50% of your game. You don't go 500.
well, you can't
They
go
play-
500
they
with
play-
7 games.
Are they playing their games in Coors?
Oh boy, are these people tweeting us? They
These are-
want us to talk to something about?
I don't know. I'm getting so many tweets. It's ridiculous. It's tough when you're popular. Like, I don't want to. We're not going to brag about it, but it's real tough being kind of a.
Wow.
You know how it goes. Being a popular guy, it's like, man,
I haven't really worried about that since high school.
these girls and
Some
I'm
people
telling
get
you,
out of
man.
it.
No,
you
it's a scene. I mean, if you're out there, hey girl, no.
But a little side note on the career
Yeah.
list of RBIs today. David Ortiz, with his RBI double, eclipsed Andre Dawson to take 37th place on the all-time RBI
Where's our
list.
stance on David Ortiz as a Hall of Famer? For sure, no doubt.
For me, he is. Yeah, he's no doubt. He's going to be the first DH in and maybe opening it up for Edgar Martinez if he has any eligibility he has left.
I would like to see Edgar Martinez in it. I guess I got to agree with you on Ortiz. I think,
So clutch in the postseason.
yeah, real clutch in the postseason. 3 World Series helps him a lot.
Yes.
It helps him a lot.
That's huge.
But I still wonder, like, East Coast bias. Is everybody fan-wise, because a team like the Red Sox was the underdog against the evil empire for so many years, and Ortiz is one of the guys who blew it up, and they had success, and it's like, do we think more highly of him than the writers will think of him?
I think the postseason success goes a long way with the writers, and even if he mashed and they didn't win, I think that still would have been a feather in his cap. Performance in October goes a long way with them.
And not for nothing, he's a popular dude, very well liked by everybody. Writers like him, players like him. Mm-hmm. So that when you're talking about people voting for him, that stuff does matter.
It's true.
People do not get voted in because they're assholes or perceived to be assholes.
That's why it took so long for my boy Jim Rice to get in. Wasn't always liked by the media. Oh boy. So coming up who's also scorching is Xander Bogaerts. He had 4 hits yesterday.
Is there any time when he's not?
That's his 6th career 4-hit game.
He's like 11.
Tying him with Yaz for the second most 4-hit games of somebody under 23.
Wow.
For the Red Sox. Number 1 on the list, you could probably guess.
Ted Williams?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
That's a great list to be on, though.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
When you're on lists with the 2 greatest players, Yaz and Ted Williams,
would you like to have
nice.
dinner with Ted and Yaz and Xander Bogaerts? Could you imagine can you imagine that conversation?
Yeah. Well, unless Teddy isn't still frozen, so I don't think he's coming back.
Too soon, man.
Yeah, too soon. That's true.
Hey, real quick, let's talk Buchholz. What's the deal? Has it been confirmed Tommy John yet? Because that's what I'm worried about.
I mean, you might as well just have him get in there and get the surgery, right? I mean, this year's for naught.
If it's that or flexor tendon, whatever it's going to be, right?
He just got switched from the 15-day to 60 DL, so, I mean, what is the point of bringing him back in the first week of September?
Yeah.
It's like, even if he can go, it's like, get that, especially if you're going to pick up this guy's option next year, it'd be nice to maybe have a good year next year and potentially have him coming back for a September run, adding that guy into the mix.
Yeah.
But
he had a nice year, though. 6 homers in 113 innings, 114 hits in 113 innings. It's a great year for a starter.
Wow.
You're
being facetious right here.
No, I'm being serious.
Yeah.
He had a nice year for a starter, a nice half year for a starter.
Yeah.
Then too bad he got injured and you don't have any other starters.
He was obviously our best pitcher by far.
Yeah,
best starter by
did
far
okay.
going into the and getting injured, but what are you going to do? Well, Ryan Hannigan got a 7-game hit streak. I'm excited about that.
Great.
You got to look for the small things. When it's this painful a year, just got to look for what we got to mention and should have started the show with. One Mr. Travis Shaw. What a game yesterday. Okay. Unbelievable. 2 bombs, 4 for 4.
Is he back in Pawtucket yet?
I know, right?
That's the shtick, right? He comes up like every other day and goes down the next day.
There's been a lot of guys like that this year. He's been doing that. Jamal Weeks lately, he's been doing that.
Who, by the way,
Jonathan
was just DFA'd. Jamal Weeks. Is he done forever in Boston?
Probably so.
Yeah, especially with Rutledge.
Yeah. That's the thing, yeah, so... But what are you going to do? But Travis, what was awesome was Farrell after the game. He's giving the kid praise and whatnot, and he calls him Jeff Shaw, his dad, because they played together in Cleveland. So he's like, you're getting old when guys you played with kids are now playing for you. So, but monster game, 4 for 4, 2 home runs, 5 runs scored.
Yeah,
first time a Red Sox player scored 5 runs since Pedroia in 2008, and first time a rookie scored 5 runs since 1950. Walt Droppo.
Oh,
boom!
Yeah, Walt.
Walt.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you played with Walt.
No, I remember that game. That game in 1950 when he scored those 5 runs.
Oh man, it was
a scene.
He was insane.
And they beat the Boston Bean Eaters 12-3.
Boom!
It was a hell of a game.
It's unbelievable. You got that right at the fingertips.
I should have said something that could have actually happened, like the Milwaukee Braves.
And the thing I've been hopping on this year and why the Red Sox are so horrible is because they don't hit in the clutch. Just let me break this down for you. In their 3 wins this week, they hit 15 for 36 with runners in score position, a 417 clip. In their 4 losses, 9 for 41, 220. So there it is in a nutshell.
Okay, so what's the team on base percentage? Because I have a little theory about that. I'm running down the list on some of these guys, and some of these guys get on at a pretty good clip. Diaza, Hannigan get on at about 350. Ortiz still getting on at 335.
Holt.
Bogart's at 345. Holt at 364.
Yeah.
Pedroia was 348 before he got injured. Like, you got some guys who get on at a decent clip. So they're not struggling to get on base. They don't strike out, besides Napoli, a ton.
Right.
But at the other side, I think those left on base, the runners in scoring position statistics are kind of the no crap statistic. When you win, no crap, you drive in guys that are on base.
Right.
When you lose, no crap, you don't drive in guys that are on base. Yeah. So that's the thing. And when you lose more than you win, you're not driving in guys that are on base.
Absolutely.
You know, that's the issue. The question is, where do they rank in the majors in terms of runners in scoring position?
I believe I looked that up, and they are like lower third.
Okay.
Somewhere in like the
because I feel like every
low
team's
20s.
every team's fans.
I mean, high 20s.
Every team fan could make those cases.
Yeah.
Like, oh, our team never hits with runners in scoring position. It's like, yeah, because you're diehard on it. When somebody's on second base and doesn't come in, that literally eats a piece of you.
Yeah, well, that's true for me. But I mean, anybody, any Joe Schmo can look at the numbers and be like, that's not good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 2 for 11 with runners in scoring position. That's horrible.
Yeah.
You know, but hopefully with Ortiz's, turn, and we can get that middle of the lineup hitting, because for a while it was like the table setters were doing it and the middle of the lineup wasn't. So now maybe they're turning a corner. Napoli's been better lately. Hopefully Ramirez can get his act going. He's coming out of a mini slump. He had 2 hits today. So although we did go out of the game with, it looked like on a swing he kind of hurt his knee. And let's talk about some of the guys that hurt their bodies on swings.
Well, but before we do that, real quick, one scoring position thing real quick.
Yeah.
Another way to fix that, and it won't drive them in, you just got to hit them in, but another way to fix that is I'd like to see the run game happen a little bit more. They don't run a lot. Now, the question is, who the hell are you going to run with? Victorino's now gone. Betts is injured.
Right.
Who's going to run? But I wish that they had made more of an emphasis on stealing. I know it's the American League. I know it's 2015. Nobody steals anymore.
Yeah.
But I wish that they had made a little more of an emphasis on it, because when you put pressure on a pitcher, weird stuff happens.
It's true. And earlier in the year when they were really horrible and weren't hitting at all, he was doing a lot of hit and running with like Holt, Swihart, Pedroia, And I saw a little bit of today. He got runners in motion. And so you're still going to be able to do it with like a Diaza, a Castillo, Holt's still out there, and even Swihart. So, I think you'll see more of that, but hopefully we'll get back to the big boppers actually contributing. So
you got to know which ones, who at the plate is going to make contact. Pablo Sandoval, for kind of a power guy, doesn't strike out a ton. So a guy like that, you probably want to get somebody in front of him in motion, assuming it's not going to be David Ortiz, depending on how the lineup is set. You want to get somebody in front of him in motion because he's probably going to put the bat on the ball.
Yeah, I mean, he's got good plate coverage, but that also does make him swing at some ridiculous pitches. And, if it strikes out. One instance is where he struck out this week, ending an inning, he injured himself. The ball hit him, and he swung. Mm-hmm. And so he's been out, and thankfully he was, because like Travis Shaw, came in and really did the trick. And take your time, Pablo. I mean, he wasn't in there. He pinch hit today, and he'll probably be back in there in the New York series.
He had a tough week. The dehydration game too.
Oh my God, dehydration game, otherwise known as fatness, pretty much. I mean, I wonder if him and Gene Machie dined together, because they have a very similar physique. I mean, it's those good San Francisco restaurants.
Maybe there's something to that.
Yeah, and he's coming to another town with great restaurants.
Something to why the Giants are dumping guys like this. You ever wonder about that?
Yeah. It would be nice to see those guys lose about 10 or 15. But, I mean, I laugh at the people, like some people I talk to at the deadline. It's like, they're like, oh, you got to get rid of Hanley and, Sandoval. I'm like, they're huge contracts. It's not every year that the Dodgers are sold and there's a new ownership group in there that it just wants to win so badly, they'll take $250 million of your payroll. That's not going to happen every year.
And
So it's like, especially with these guys not performing.
The Dodgers didn't take on anywhere near the payroll everybody expected them to at the deadline anyways.
Yeah.
They didn't go get Price, Cueto, they didn't go get those guys.
Yeah.
They didn't sign Cueto to an extension.
Yeah.
They didn't go sign Price. They didn't get Hamels a 7-year deal.
It's true.
So
say
the
it via Dodgers show.
The team and the Yankees didn't do hardly anything, right? The teams that are supposed to be spending money and stuff didn't really spend a ton of money.
And I think that's going to come back to bite the Yankees.
I think it will,
especially
too.
with Pineda going on the DL.
Yeah.
Their starting staff is thin.
Yeah.
They are thin. And, I thought maybe they could have got by that if they were able to swing a Kimbrel or something and shorten that game that they already have shortened to 7 innings. They have it down to 6.
Yeah.
That could have been scary. But and that's kind of what got me thinking why the Red Sox were rumoring that Padres deal, just to get Kimbrel and block him from going to the Yanks. But they're obviously formidable towards the end of that game.
Yeah.
But
What do you think about the Blue Jays now? Playoff team?
I mean, that lineup's incredible, but I have to think that, with the ebb and flow of a 162-game season, they're going to hit a 3-week stretch where maybe they don't hit that much.
Yeah.
The one good thing I think is by getting Price is you kind of have to need that guy if you're going for that second wild card spot. It's a 1-game series, so you need that stud you can throw out there in that 1-game set,
I got to tell you, I like a couple things they did. The first one is
Tulo,
obviously, but they say, but what about Tulo? They say, why do you go get Tulo? Why this guy you can already hit? You've already got a ton of right-handed bats. Well, Joey Bats and Encarnacion, those contracts aren't off the books this year, but they're getting close. I think they could dangle those two guys for a lot of pitching this winter. And somebody who really needs a bat, if it's the Padres or somebody, I know you don't want Encarnacion playing in the field anymore probably, but if it's the Padres or whoever else who needs a bat, it's not a bad get if you got some pitching to send to Toronto. The other thing is, R.A. Dickey's contract comes off the books for them. Mark Burley's contract's going to come off the books for them. I think they try to make a real run at Price, sign him long term. I don't know if he does it. I don't, who knows what he has a feeling for.
Yeah.
I think they make a run at Price. I think they got to. At this point, you'd have to. And besides Price, with those contracts off the books, and if they can trade a Bautista or an Encarnacion or somebody, you build around Donaldson and Tulo. They've got a ton of really exciting young guys. Yeah. They really do. And you build around guys like that, and then you go to Cueto, or you go to another one of those expiring contracts that somebody else has now. But in November, you say to Cueto, hey, pal, you were with the Royals for 2 months. Why don't you come up here now? And I think they can make a run on somebody legit.
I think they'll go after Price. I don't think they'll be able to get him. I see him destined to be a Cub.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I would argue the Dodgers.
Really? Mm-hmm. Dodgers will probably be in the mix, too, but
or
I just
for
see
God's
him
sakes,
going back.
Why couldn't the
as
Yankees?
manager.
Why couldn't the Yankees be in the mix for a lot of these guys?
Yeah, they will be. They will be. I mean, they're the Yankees.
Yeah.
So, and they need starting pitching, so they're going to be horrible.
Yeah.
So speaking of the Yankees, that's who we got next on the docket. We go to the Bronx for 3, and then we go to Detroit for 3. So,
any chance you can return Rick Porcello while you're there? Do you still have the receipt?
Yeah. I mean, Cespedes has moved on. We can't get him back, but unfortunately. But
Cespedes is one of those guys who's so good he keeps getting traded.
Yeah.
He's got a weird skill set. He's not, but he's a very good player. And him and Jose Reyes is another, and he's on a terrible contract. But Jose Reyes has been traded 200 times in his career. And after a while, you got to be like, I'm sorry, is it me?
Right.
Like, by all accounts, Jose Reyes is a great dude. Everybody loves playing with him. Great energy. Cespedes is fine. I don't hear any problems with Cespedes.
Yeah.
But they have such specific skill sets, and the contracts they're on and the needs teams have. It's a new uniform every year for a guy like that.
Yeah, Reyes' contract's definitely an albatross. But I don't think Cespedes is at that too high a number. I think the thing that got him run out of Boston is when they were like, all right, we want you to come in here and play right field. He's like, no, I play left field. It's like, oh, okay, buddy. So I think once you like that and you show that you're really not a team player, the writing was on the wall. I mean, and we just let you go for less than nothing.
You could use him right now.
But, I mean, you ask why I watch, these last few months, with the season being done and everything, and it's for let's beat the Yankees. Let's at the very least, let's just submarine their hopes. Let's keep them out of the playoffs. You
just want to be a spoiler.
Nice. Yeah.
Okay.
Just be a spoiler. Let's play some good baseball, some sound baseball, some good defensive baseball, and, get a hit now and again with runners in scoring position. That's all I ask.
Now, see, I would look at it the opposite. I would say I'm okay, as funny as it sounds, I'm okay with losing almost every game the rest of the year. Obviously not going to happen, 60 games left.
Right.
But I'm okay with going 0 for 60.
Okay.
As long as all the young guys are playing. So that 2016, you can slot in any 23, 24-year-old to any position, plus the free agents you should pick up this winter and all the whatever move is going to happen. But you can slot in any of these young guys and say, I trust him here because he took the lumps last year.
Yeah.
And if you end up with 95 losses, they're not on that pace. But if you were to end up that bad, it would suck. But I think, you know what? If the plan long term is to do what you should do for the long term benefit for some of these young guys to play here for a lot of controllable years,
Yeah.
take it on the chin.
Yeah, especially the pitches. That's what we really got to see what's going on. Because, I mean, as far as positional players, we are kind of hamstrung with the Sandoval contract and the hand ram contract. And, you know, everybody and their mother wants to move both those guys over to first base.
Yeah.
I really think Panda can go back to being a steady defensive third baseman. He could stand to shed 10, you know?
I don't want to see either one of those guys at first base.
Yeah.
To tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Probably Hanley more than Panda. I just don't think either one's a good fit there.
Well, Hanram will be our DH once
Yeah.
Poppy's gone after next year, you know, and retires and goes off into the sunset. So he'll be.
You know what? Not for nothing, but Pablo's playing third. It's better than Will Middlebrooks. Let's
That's
be
true.
honest. Look
That's
what
true.
happened to Will Middlebrooks this year in San Diego. Same thing that happened to him in Boston.
Down
Nothing.
AAA.
So
See another 4A player?
exactly. I think he absolutely is another hot prospect. Can't miss who swung and missed.
Right.
And that happens. You can't blame the guy, but it could have been Will Middlebrooks playing third, and it's not. So it's little things.
Yep. Speaking of young pitchers doing up, Mr. Stephen Wright this past week had his best start of the season. He had a dancing. Had a career high in strikeouts with 8. I believe he had 8. And really had a dancing. So moving forward, it'd be nice. I just like, and the Red Sox like it too, having that knuckler in there.
Yeah.
You know? And having that knuckleball pitcher, and I love it because, you know, he can throw a bunch of innings.
As long as you've got a catcher with a good feel for him. And the Red Sox aren't new to this because Tim Wakefield. But as long as you have catchers in the system who know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Well, that's, you know, a tip of the cap to Swihart because, you know, 2 starts ago when he caught Wright, he had 4 pass balls. You know, I mean, I was watching that game, and I was half expecting Doug Mirabelli to come in mid-game with the state police escort, you know, right from the airport. But that didn't happen. But he comes out the next day and catches him again, 0 pass balls, and Wright has his best start. So you got to look for the little things. But, yeah, so let's just, you know, some final thoughts. What do you think about this week? 3 in New York, 3 in Detroit. Am I too optimistic by saying, hey, let's grab 4 out of 6?
What do you think? Answer that question for yourself.
I think yes.
Yeah, you're way too optimistic.
Yeah. So,
I think you get 2 of those. I think you maybe get 1, maybe both with Miami, probably 1.
yeah.
And if you take, this is what, an 8-game road trip. If you go 3-5 on an 8-game, that's not good, but it's probably what's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, we'll try and have a 500 road trip. Tell the folks where they can find you on Twitter once again, Bobby.
I'm at Bobby DeMuro on Twitter. We're also doing the Dodgers show, much better than this one.
Wow.
Doing Dodgers Wrap 360 in actually about 45 minutes. So if you're watching the live stream, stick around.
Hopefully you can get some, you know, good-looking guys on that show this week. Yeah.
For you.
Right. Boom. There you go. Well, that's it. Thanks, guys, for another edition of Red Sox Wrap 360. Bobby and Mike are out. Go Sox.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.